Tutorial 1.3 Tables. Welcome back to this online tutorial about scripting within Designer. In this tutorial, we will be learning about tables. In the previous example, we had inputs 1 to 8 starting timelines 101 to 108. Now let's assume we don't want to start a consecutive list of timelines, but instead a different timeline for each input. As you can see from the image on the screen, there just isn't a simple formula or any maths that we can do to make this work. Instead, we need a way of storing a timeline number for each input that can be recalled whenever a trigger is fired. To do this, we're going to introduce a special variable type called a table. Tables are used to store multiple values and can be a very powerful way to organize and store data. You can think of these like an Excel spreadsheet, where each cell can store a value of some kind. Tables can be large in size and can store all of the different types of variables talked about in previous tutorials. Within Designer, tables can be used for various applications. They can store RGB values, a set of trigger numbers, or in this case, timeline numbers. A basic table with 3 numbers can be set up like so. But a table can also contain any type of value, so the following example is also valid. To create a table, first start with the table name, followed by an equal sign and then a pair of brackets. Each value is then separated by commas inside the brackets, which then forms a new index. If you want to access a value inside the table, simply type the table's name, followed by some square brackets, and then a numerical index. So with this in mind, if we wanted to log a value from the table, we could do so like shown on screen. And if done correctly, it should return this value. The numerical index simply points to the value that you want to access in the table. So if we change this, we can access the next value like so. Now let's use this and combine it with a script to start a timeline. Like in our previous tutorial, we're going to use the getTrigger variable call to return the inputs number that's just changed state. We're then going to use that as an index to our table, which will finally return a timeline number which we can start. It is also possible to store tables within tables, and this is referred to as nested table. Nested tables can be useful for organizing data into sets like so. Just like in the previous example, each value is separated by a comma, but you should also notice that each table inside the nested table is also separated by a comma. Furthermore, the values inside the nested table can be accessed like so. It's worth noting that the first index points to the table inside the nested table, and the second index points to a value. Besides using a table that uses numerical indexes, you can also use tables that store key and value pairs. Here, instead of using a numerical index, you can instead specify a key to use and then return its associated value using that key. To return a value from this type of table, you can use either of the following syntaxes. It's also worth noting, tables that store key value pairs can be nested as well. Whilst it is possible to create a table including values as indicated before, you can create an empty table like this and then assign it values later on, like so. Using this method, you can add values to a table as required. If values already exist at these indexes, this will simply override the existing value. The types of tables that you'll need to use depend on your programming requirements. Sometimes it may be more convenient to use numerically indexed tables, sometimes it may be more convenient to use key and value pairs. It really depends on what you're trying to program. Thanks again for joining us in this scripting tutorial, and please join us again in the next one.